I'm Morgan.
And I'm Megan, twins and host of M&M Chat, a monthly podcast that brings together our many commonalities: motherhood, farm life, fitness, chasing our passions, and goal chat. It is our goal to create a show that is positive, real, and fun.
All right, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. This is our first episode in 2024. We are happy that you are here. This year, we are going to do something a little different. We are going to pick a article or video, some sort of media to highlight each month that is connected to our themes of motherhood, farm life, fitness, chasing our passions, kind of that whole goal chat and our themes of our podcast. And so today we are going to talk about rising food prices, staying on budget, especially with families and rising prices everywhere and all things that we do, and then still eating healthy. So we're focusing on those goals of New Year's while making sure that we don't break the bank and that we're staying on our family budget. So today's article is actually a video from Rising Food Prices from CBS News. It's an interview that they did with the United States Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack. So we will link the video in our show notes if you want to watch the whole piece. But we will break it down and we're going to just have candid conversations. We are not experts on this, so we're not giving you the for sure method of how to stay on budget, but we're going to give you kind of our thoughts on this. So food for thought, and we're going to just have a go chat about tips and tricks and things that we've seen and things that we do and ideas for going forward.
Well, and the reason for this topic, we feel, is we're all kind of in that when we go to the store, we get super frustrated with how much our grocery bill is. Or that's me anyways. I don't think I have been able to walk out of the store with less than $150 most of the time, not even less than $200. And that's going to either Walmart or Hy-Vee. And so I know some people have been starting to go to Aldi or different places to try to budget. And so today we wanted to chat about this because we're all kind of feeling the rise in the prices, and it's really frustrating, and we're having to kind of rebudget and plan for groceries, and it's crazy how much we are spending on groceries each month. I wouldn't even like be shocked if it's more than honestly $800 some months, just because you don't even take into consideration even the little things that you just go and buy, like, oh, I need a jug of milk, or buying
Or when you
food when
add
you go
in
out to eat.
diapers.
Diapers, yep. So
Yeah.
especially when you're adding some of those things that you need when you start having kids, diapers, or if you're buying formula, um, different things. Wipes are super expensive. Just now we are going at our household, we're going through potty training. So I was buying extra things for like potty training. And so it definitely is, you can feel the rise in the prices everywhere.
Yeah, and we're talking mainly about grocery stores today, but I've noticed it even at restaurants.
Hmm.
When you go get a coffee, they've upped the prices by at least $1. Now you can hardly leave without spending $6, $7 on a coffee. And then they want a tip too. So we
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, do you add a tip to that? Or Tyler and I have a favorite restaurant in town that we like to go to, and we also sometimes get takeout from there. And my favorite meal used to be 7.50, and now it's almost 11 something. And so it's just crazy to think about. Not only are you spending more money at the grocery store, but you're also spending more money when you go out. Or if you think about the I'm heading into town, I'm gonna stop and get a coffee. It's only $5. Well, lately it's 7 or so. And so
Right?
every time you spend money on that, every time I'm just gonna run through the drive-through real quick. That's one thing that I'm really working on this year is making things at home. And I still want to have that tasty treat because I love those things. But if I literally, maybe this year I should keep a notebook and like write down every time I go through a drive-through and how much I spend and see how much I could be saving if I wasn't doing that on the occasion.
Yep, I agree with that. And it'd be probably eye-opening to see how much here and there that you just spend. But with the whole restaurant, increased too. The other day, well, just Friday, so today's Sunday, 2 days ago, we went to a buffet and I was shocked. And I knew going into it, it was going to be kind of pricey. So we were fine with paying it. But I was shocked. It was $70 for two of us to get a buffet. And I asked the lady ringing us up, I said, does this include a drink? Like, do I get a glass of wine? Do we get a beer or something? Because $70. She's like, no, I'm sorry. It's just like your typical water, milk, pop, that kind of stuff, tea. And I was like, it's kind of steep for not even getting a drink with that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I agree 100%. It's crazy. And I feel like we're going to talk about some of the reasons why it might be going up, but I feel like it's not going to go back down. So I think
No.
we're at our new reality and it's just either going to stay stagnant, hopefully, and stay pretty constant if we can get like our supply chain and farming and things and production in a pretty constant order, or it's going to just keep rising.
Yeah. But I also, with that, we could dive in, this would be a whole nother topic, but on inflation. And it's like prices are rising, but so is like income, it seems like maybe not fast enough at some jobs. Like I feel like with teachers, our income's not rising fast enough. But when we were kids, minimum wage, I got paid at my first job like 7.25, whereas now a lot of teenagers are getting paid 12, 15, 16, $18 at their job. And so the minimum wage has gone up as well, but some jobs still it's not going up high enough for the prices that are increasing.
Yeah, definitely. With this article, so they were interviewing Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, and what I noticed from this video, I guess my first takeaways was that there's some positives happening in agriculture. Like he was talking about overall in agriculture, we saw a increase in the amount of income that came into agriculture this year, but it wasn't spread out evenly. So you
Mm-hmm.
had your large farmers that were like making money, and then your small farmers that maybe were like niche farmers or specialty agriculture and focused on like direct marketing. They were making maybe good money in farmers markets and like that local kind of trend. And then, but like those middle farmers that are just kind of hanging on. So it wasn't spread evenly. And so then he said that they were trying to come up with like ways of how can we make it so that it's more evenly spread because it is. And then with the cost of inputs, there was from the USDA, they had a projected increase of 1.2% in 2024 for food, which is a positive note, less than last year's increase, which was 5.8% in 2023 for food that was passed on to the consumer. But it makes sense because in the last few years with um, COVID and having disruptions in the supply chain, and then also with global markets not being stable and wars, and then what was happening in Ukraine and things like that. Production is the cost of production, producing things is up 18%. So that's input cost, that's seed cost, fertilizers, diesel, all of those things. And then farmland is up 12%, which we've seen that in our area, Johnson County. That's
Yeah,
definitely accurate right there. So then that's being passed down in the supply chain and then ultimately getting passed on to the consumer. But I don't feel like farmers are making much of an increase to the dollar because of those input costs, because you're putting so much into the land and into the crops and into the livestock that even though everything's up, the return I feel like isn't evenly spread like he was talking about.
I agree with that. I would say for sure that it's not evenly across the board. But it is a good thing that there are still an increase in income for farmers because something that he mentioned too was a lot of the middle to small farms have to have an additional income off the farm, so an additional job, which is unfortunate. So I was glad to hear that they are trying to make it so, like you said, distribute that income a little bit more some way, like finding different ways that how can those farmers get into selling to local schools and or selling more locally to people and not just the niche markets, but also kind of like the general farmer. Um, and then that way trying to find different ways for them to make income so they don't necessarily have to have a job off the farm because they are busy enough with everything that they have going on the farm. Like I know that from experience with Kyle, it's really hard to have a job and still grow your farm at the same time. When he was working his 8 to 5 job, he would have to come home and then work on the farm, sometimes till 11 o'clock at night, or especially during the busy season. And then in the summer months, like working, well, actually planting summer and fall, working straight through the weekend too. And so I do definitely feel like if farmers have a job off the farm, then they are able to do extra for the farm and try to grow that. So then you kind of get in this cycle of, well, I want to grow it, but I don't have the time. And when am I going to do it? And you're just always constantly like walking and not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, you're just kind of a hamster on a wheel. That's kind of how I feel with my flower business because my goal was to make it full time by 2025. Well, it's 2024 and I don't see that happening. And I think a lot of that is because I prioritize it as much as I can, but like you said, I can't make those investments or that time that is needed to put thought into how can I like increase my
Expand.
market? How can I expand my reach? How can I market a new workshop better or things like that?
Yeah, there's only
Um,
24 hours in a day.
yeah, if I had more time, I could go to more farmers markets, but now I'm just trying to be able to sell them at the end of the lane because with little kids and walking and stuff like that, I don't have time to go to a farmers market like I could if I had them in daycare and I was going during the day. So yeah,
Exactly.
I can see that 100% that that would be part of the issue too with how can they spread that income more evenly. And I feel like a lot of times too, it's for health insurance. So one thing that you
Mm,
and I were talking about when we were making the notes for this podcast episode is that a lot of times like health and insurance and things like that can be so expensive. And then you kind of have this domino effect of like, we're going to give a couple examples here of things that are more expensive and the swaps and things from the grocery store. But if you were buying something, if you were like fueling your body and taking the best care of yourself that you can, choosing food that was nutritious and whole and didn't have a lot of processing to it, then could you be healthier in the forefront and not need as much health care down the line?
hmm.
And now you still want to be covered because you don't want something to happen and not have coverage. But I feel like it's crazy because maybe health insurance wouldn't be so expensive if our country
Mm.
didn't need it as much as we do.
Yeah, and a lot of times we think of in the moment, but when you're investing in your health, you're thinking long term.
Hmm.
And so, what is going to make it so when I'm 50, 60, I'm not having these certain health conditions and having to pay for medicine or pay for hospital bills or surgeries, different things like that. I totally agree with you. It seems like we're kind of backwards, like we're paying all this money towards like medical bills and prescriptions when we could maybe work on our health with what we put in our bodies as far as nutrition goes and
Hmm.
movement goes and kind of help offset those costs down the road.
Yeah.
And leading into that, for example, we were looking at just a couple different staples that a lot of people use. For example, a lot of people buy spaghetti sauce. And a lot of people buy ragu, which is nothing wrong with ragu. I've bought in ragu before. But if you look at ragu and you look at some other like more nutritious brands like Rayo's, it's crazy the difference between the two in not only the ingredients but also the price. So just food for thought, a jar of Rayo's garlic sauce has Italian whole peeled tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, olive oil, garlic, carrots, and salt. So pretty limited ingredients. But that jar is 8.52. Whereas a jar of ragu, which I think is actually more per like more ounces in the jar than the Rayo's, is the garlic brand also is 367. So less, or like more than half less, if that makes sense. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
It's
it's the half
two
the
times
cost.
less. It's like it's more than two times less. But it's got tomato puree, diced tomatoes in purees. So a lot of it is taking those tomatoes and like putting them in with water and other things. It's not even just taking whole peeled tomatoes and chopping them up. So it's taking the puree from the tomatoes, sugar, it has olive oil in it, onion, salt, roasted garlic, other spices, and yeast extract. But the ingredient that I'm not really sure why it needs is the sugar. So it's got added sugar into it, whereas Rayo's doesn't have any added sugar. And so you look at Rayo's, which has less ingredients and no added sugar, which is 852 and it's less ounces. And then ragu has added sugar and some of the other stuff in it, like not even full tomatoes, just pureed tomatoes. And it's 367. So a lot of times people look at the prices on the shelf and they're like, I'm going to buy the 367 one. It will go farther. It's a bigger jar. But we don't look at the ingredients on the back and all that extra stuff in it. And I feel like that happens a lot with when you're trying to go look for healthy foods, is the healthy foods, which actually has less ingredients in them, is more expensive. But I was kind of thinking, like, why would that be? It has less stuff in it. You're just taking tomatoes, crushing them. It's probably like a big blender. You put all the spices in it, crush them all up and make a spaghetti sauce. People sometimes make homemade spaghetti sauces like that. Whereas like the ragu has all of this extra stuff in it. But I have a feeling it's more mass produced. It's more
Yeah.
in bigger batches and quantities. So they're looking for the best bang for the buck that way. And they're gonna take that puree and like add extra filler into it to make it go further. Whereas the Rayo's is like you have to get those whole tomatoes and like crush them and things like that. So that's probably
And I
why the
wonder
price
if
difference.
they're adding in sugar to bringing back some of that flavor and sweetness
Mm,
that since they are doing more purees and not whole tomatoes and things like that, it might be more watered down. So maybe the sugar kind of gives it that little bit of like sweetness or fullness to the sauce that the Rayo's already naturally has because it's being more just all of those flavors of those spices that are going into the Rayo's.
yeah.
But it's also like our society has been trained that like we like sugar so much and our palates like sugar so much. I also wonder if it's a marketing tactic that if this has sugar in it, they're gonna enjoy it and they're gonna like it and they're gonna want to buy it again.
Yeah.
And then they are able to mass produce because they get larger, they get larger. They probably own other sauces, like they probably
Yeah.
make all these other things as well.
Well, and I
Um,
wonder if like ragu, I feel like ragu's been around longer than Rayo's, and so ragu probably is bigger and able to lower their cost a little bit more because they probably are in more stores and things like that.
and like I know we all are busy, so like I want to buy a jar of spaghetti sauce and I don't want to make a homemade sauce. But I wonder if you were to buy the ingredients that they said on the back of the Rayo's and
Yeah.
you bought a thing of tomatoes, you bought garlic, you bought some oregano, how would the price difference be if you were canning it yourself and making your own?
Yeah. Like,
And like Papa
because
John makes,
tomatoes, like I mean, growing your tomatoes would be cheaper than buying
yeah.
tomatoes at the store to make your own, but that's a good
And,
point.
and Papa John makes salsa and spaghetti sauce and things like that. And I wonder, like, if you took each jar, how much it would end up costing. So, like, back when we used to do a lot more canning and things, it probably was a lot more budget friendly because you made it in bulk yourself. And like you said, you used garden grown ingredients. But I have been seeing a trend on Instagram, like more homesteading and making your own things, which is great and all good in theory and stuff. And I want to try to do more of that myself too. But also, reality, we're all super busy. And so, like,
Well, and it seems like a
sometimes,
lot of those people that are doing that, not everybody, but it seems like a lot of them are also stay-at-home moms, which that kind of is the way it used to be back in the day.
mhm,
It's like the stay-at-home moms would take care, that was their job, was to take care of the kids, take care of the house, take care of the food, and they would can and they would freeze and they would do all of this stuff. But if you have a full-time job, it's like when? When do you
yeah,
find time? For us, since we're teachers, we kind of get the luxury of we get a couple months off during the summer, so we could easily can some tomatoes
we should try
and
to do that this
sauce.
summer.
We should. And like this year we did some freezing of corn and things like that. So we have the luxury of being able to do that in the summers, but not everybody does. Some people walk through the summer. So it's like you almost got to find a way to prioritize. Like, do you want to do the spaghetti, or do you want to just try to buy a jar that's like got some healthier things in it?
Mm-hmm.
But that's when you have to like look at, okay, what's, I don't know, pros and cons. Do you want to buy the 850 jar and have it be healthier and invest in your health? Or are you really on a budget and you're going to buy that 367 jar and pair some vegetables with it along on the side? So you have a little bit of pasta, some spaghetti sauce, and eat some broccoli with it too, or something. Like, try to balance it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
And
no
I
right
think
answer here.
no, and I think what you just said was really important. Either way, no matter what, if you're buying the Ragu that's 367 or you're buying the Rayo's that's 850 or you're making your own, you are feeding your family, you're providing a good nutritious meal. Spaghetti is supposed to be a meal that goes far, that's not very expensive anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like I mean, you're using noodles and it's pretty carb heavy. So it's one of those in meals that you have on occasion, as a rotation in your meal list because you're feeding your family and you're like, it's 5 o'clock, I gotta put something on the table. So no matter what you're doing, like you said, just thinking about you could add, like, I have frozen zucchini noodles in my freezer, and I love having the regular pasta because I like the texture, but I will throw in some zucchini noodles and you can't even taste them when they're mixed in with the rest. So you
Yeah.
could add in some other things to make it a little bit more health.
Like nutritious.
Yeah.
And my other thoughts are too is, do you remember that time we went to a friend's house and we grew up like when our parents would make spaghetti, we loaded our plates. Like, we had like a plate, like a dinner plate, and we loaded it with pasta. We put some sauce on it, put some of the
Garlic.
Parmesan and garlic on it, and then we'd eat that and sometimes have garlic bread too. And then sometimes we go back and get seconds and get plain noodles with just a little bit of garlic powder on them. We went to a friend's house one time and she made a pot of spaghetti, and there was, I think, four of us
Salad.
there,
And I think she
four
had
or five
salad on the
and a
side.
salad, like a pot of spaghetti and a salad. And I looked at the pot and I was like, oh, like there's really not that much in there. Like, is this gonna be enough for everybody? And I saw her take like just a little scoop of spaghetti noodles, a little bit of sauce with the hamburger in it, and some salad, and her plate was full. And that's all she had. She didn't go back for seconds or anything. And so that's what I did. I like did the same things. I didn't want to take all the noodles and not have enough for everybody else. But that was so eye-opening for me because I was like, that's probably a more accurate portion of spaghetti. Instead of having an entire plate, it was just a little serving with salad on the side, and you could have breadstick or something too. But I was like, okay. So that's another way you could be a little health conscious, is think about the portion size.
Definitely. 100%. Another example that we found, this is one that is funny in Tyler and I's house because I will buy pure maple syrup, and I use pure maple syrup not only on pancakes but in ingredients as a swap for a healthier sugar too. And so I use pure maple syrup quite a bit. Well, Tyler, the first time I bought that was like, I am not using that. Like, I want my pancake maple syrup. Like I can't even think of the brand right now, but you all can picture the syrup jar. And
Well, they just recently changed the name of it. It used to be Aunt
and
Jemima, uh,
yeah,
but they changed it. Um, now
it
what
was,
is it? Aunt, is it still Aunt Jemima's farm? I don't know, but that's what it used to be.
but I went on Walmart.com and I found that Great Values pancake syrup is $2.36. Pure 100% maple syrup is $7.98 to $12, depending on the size that you're buying. Well, the pancake maple syrup that Tyler likes and Dean likes, because Dean has to have what Tyler has. So I've been trying to get Dean to switch to my syrup, but he says, no, I want dad's syrup. Well, the first ingredient has corn syrup. Second ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. And then it has water and gum. And then it had
There's no
flavoring.
maple syrup in it.
It had flavoring and coloring, and there was not maple anywhere on that label. And then the maple syrup that I buy for me had 100% pure maple syrup from trees in it. So how did they get it to taste so much like maple syrup?
It's
Like the
yeah, it's kind
maple
of
flavor.
like it kind of is gross of how they make it taste so much
when
like,
it's made out of corn.
yeah. Well, and just other things like I know the gum that's in it is probably get it to stick together, kind of get that syrupy consistency. But it's gotta have so many artificial flavors in there.
Yeah. And then um
Maybe like don't try to trick, but I feel like if Tyler started eating pure maple syrup, he wouldn't even notice the difference because Kyle is so picky, and now he grabs the pure maple syrup when we have waffles. Like we do have so I just looked it up. Aunt Jemima was replaced with the name Paul Milling Company, just because of kind of it was criticized as a racist caricature of Black women stemming from slavery, so that's why it got renamed. So we do still have a Paul Milling Company syrup in our fridge. I don't even know how old that is. Like I'll pull it out if we are out of pure maple syrup, but you should try to get Tyler to try the
the
other
only
one.
thing is he warms his up in the microwave, so he'll like grab it out of the fridge and he what's gross also is he warms it up in the plastic container.
Oh,
And I'm like, he says
Tyler, come on,
I
Tyler.
know, but Megan, on the back of the maple syrup, it says to do that. It says open it up, and if your bottle is half full, put it in the microwave for a minute. If it's three-quarters of the way full, put it in
What?
for this long. And I'm like, Tyler,
Why would that be good to be cold, warm, cold, warm, cold,
and you're
warm?
warming up plastic all the time with your maple syrup in it, and then yeah, then you put it back in the fridge and use it next
Why
two
doesn't
weeks from
Tyler
now.
dump a little bit into like I even with the pure maple syrup, I dump some into my measuring glass measuring cup so that way it has a little spout. And we just put like this much in it, warm that up, and if we need more, we just warm up some more.
Maybe next time I'll just be like, I already did it. I
Yeah,
already
there you
warmed
go.
it up for you.
There
I
you
put it
go.
in here because it was getting too empty and I couldn't.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
would be
whatever.
easier for you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, I put it on Dean's before. Like, if he doesn't notice Tyler take his out of the fridge, like, I'll like
Yeah.
get Dean's ready and I'll like put a little bit on his. But if he sees the bottles, he'll be like, "No, I want Dad's
And
bottle."
it's
I'm like,
probably just
"You
because he
don't
looks
even know
up to
what mom's
dad.
taste like."
Yeah, he just is like, I want dad's.
Yeah. So
But
the thing about that one,
when we were kids, remember, Carl would have sorghum.
yeah,
That's such a like a thick syrup.
thick. And I did a farm chat about maple syrup, and it's so cool how it goes from like sap, like it's clear, and then the when you boil it down and crystallize it, and then the beginning of the summer or beginning of the spring, it's a light golden brown because it hasn't photosynthesized a whole lot or like it hasn't made those flavors. And then
Mm.
as the tree is starting to bloom, it gets more robust in flavor. And so by the you could have the same tree and sell three different flavors of maple from that tree throughout the season. So you have a
Oh,
light,
cool.
a medium, and a robust flavor.
That's neat. And you guys, I think it's cool too that you can actually get syrup from other kinds of trees too. Not just maple. You think of maple syrup, but they actually sell like
Like oak and
oak syrup and things like that, and it tastes a little different.
walnut. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the thing about that, you guys, is like we were talking about with the Rayos. Like pick your battles. Like I have been going back to Ragu because Tyler and I are trying to be on a strict budget, and I've also been shopping at Aldi and trying to limit our grocery bill each week. And that is one that I've kind of gone back to is buying the Ragu because it is $3 versus 8. But with maple syrup, like since I use it for other things too, like we said,
Yeah.
picking our battles and picking what we want to choose to spend on and prioritize. I still continue to buy the pure maple syrup because I now I've gotten used to that maple flavor and then I use it in other healthier desserts as well, like energy bites and things like that.
And I also think, like you said, Tyler likes the other kind of syrup. You like the pure maple syrup. I think sometimes families get big on like, this was my excuse when Kyle and I first moved in together. Well, Kyle doesn't like veggies, so what am I supposed to make for veggies? Like, I'm just gonna do like what we're both gonna eat. That's just an excuse. So I
Mhm.
would say if you want to try to be more health conscious and you want to try the pure maple syrup, try it and the rest of your family can eat the other kind if they are not interested. Where like with vegetables now, since I chose not to make that excuse anymore. I keep them in the fridge and I just boil one serving. Like I cook one serving of vegetables, and even if Kyle doesn't eat any, I'm still going to. So like you can make the decisions that are going to be best for your health, even if the rest of your family isn't necessarily on board. And I know every family is different, so like you have to talk to your family about that. But that's just like my thoughts is don't let that hold you back just because someone in your family is not on board.
And I think also we can sometimes get into the trap of like, well, this is just going to be easier. So I'm just going to do this because I'm running out of time, I'm running late, and things like that. But honestly, sometimes that's just a mindset shift that we need to have in a society shift. Because the other day I really was like, I just want to grab some cereal because I'm hungry, I'm running late, and I ended up like getting a pan out. I cracked an egg, and as I was cracking my egg, I made my coffee real quick, and
Yeah,
then I put it on a piece of sourdough bread. And it
it really
literally,
didn't take that long.
no, it didn't take me that long. And yeah, I had more dishes and I had those in the sink later that night when I got home from work. But it did not take me that much longer versus getting a bowl, putting cereal in it, grabbing milk and everything else. It was just as fast. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes with kids, we can have that same mentality, but we can choose healthier swaps and have healthier options and things. But like today for lunch for Dean, he had Easy Mac because I know he'll eat it. Then he had dried apples and I made a shake and I've been hiding. He has been not been wanting to eat veggies lately, even the ones he used to like. So I hid spinach and carrots in it and I made like a carrot cake one
Oh.
and it had a banana in it and he was like, Mom, this is good. And so I think sometimes we also have to
Be
be
creative
creative and it's
and plan
okay.
ahead.
And it's okay to feed the mac and cheese, but also like provide options. Like he
Yeah.
knows what I put on my plate is what's going to go on his plate. And as long as they're exposed to these different things too.
I agree with that. So some things that we are going to continue staying conscious about, and then something that we thought we would share is these are just tips for eating on a budget. So planning your recipes that would go along with, we've talked about meal prep and planning out your meals. So plan your recipes so you know what to buy. Shop with a list. Buy frozen or canned vegetables so that they last longer and they don't necessarily go bad. I always buy like a combo. I'll buy some frozen and canned so I can keep them all week next week, but then I buy a few things of fresh too. Use coupons, buy store brands. That's something that I have been trying to do better with is like, especially with shopping online, is look to see, okay, it's a couple dollars difference. I could save a couple of dollars with buying the store brand. Try growing a garden. This is something that we are still kind of wanting to do as future goals. And then eating healthy is not just one size fits all. So knowing that there's multiple ways to eat healthy and there's not just one right way to do it.
No. The growing a garden, if you don't have time or don't want to grow a garden, I recommend finding someone local. We have a friend who we've been buying from, and it was awesome last summer. I
Mm-hmm.
would go and get a Walmart sack full of food
And it's
and
reasonably priced.
reasonably priced and nutritious and like no, it's being picked at the freshest because everything in the grocery store, you guys, like I being in agriculture and being around like all of this research and conferences that I've gone to about food and things, I trust the food that's in our grocery store. The processed things, the middle aisles is the things I question. But like the
Mm-hmm.
produce and the meat and all that, like I trust all of that. But if you can buy local, you're also buying when it's in the freshest and in its peak because it doesn't have to transport miles to get here. So
Yeah.
just food for thought. And this whole year we're going to be diving into topics like this. So let us know what you think. Let us know what some of your tips are for eating on a budget or your creative ways that you eat healthy. We're starting the new year strong. We're starting the new year with a fun conversation. I enjoyed this one.
I did
And we would
too.
love it if you guys would comment, share, subscribe, and please, we're just trying to spread the word. We want to get out of we love that our family and friends listen, but we want to expand our reach. So if you would share it, that would mean the world to us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for listening, and we are excited for this new year with M&M Chat.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.